How are you guys doing? Today is Monday, February 14th, 2022. I'm James Sims, and for this episode of The Elite, I'm going to do a profile on Angel Di Maria, the elite Argentinian forward for Paris Saint-Germain and the Argentinian national team, of course, turns 34. And with this episode, of course, I'm going to zoom in and analyze and kind of give you a good picture of how he impacts his team's performances day in, day out as one of the world's best performers, playing for one of the world's very few premier organizations in Paris Saint-Germain. He was also able to perform like this in other countries and other leagues as he is really refining his craft, and as he gets older, he's really continuing to show a lot of players why he is competing at the top level just like this. And I do think that he is worthy of being recognized as one of the world's best midfielders, attacking midfielders, because that's really his position to really define it better. Not to mention that he's been an amazing player, an impactful player for his clubs, but he has also been a big part of the reason that Argentina's had a lot of sustained success during the Lionel Messi era. But of course, to get into his game, he's skinny. He stands at about 5'11". He's an amazing passer. He just has incredible vision. He's an incredible dribbler, and I do think that the fact that he's always there. His presence is usually there when he's on teams. His teams are usually better equipped to win because Angel Di Maria is a player that Argentina and even PSG, Real Madrid, and Manchester United in the past have really trusted to run their offense and push him forward. That's the type of player that Angel Di Maria is. And of course, that was just examining his game, just stepping back just from a macro level as well. So to zoom in, he's originally from Rosario, Argentina. He would end up finding himself on the Rosario Central team where he would get promoted, and he would play a couple years in Argentina. After his couple years of playing in Argentina, he would establish himself as one of the better young soccer players, as right before he was noticed by Argentina the year before, he would get called up and moved to Benfica, which is one of the best teams overall in Portugal. Angel Di Maria's very first season in Portugal would be his age 19 season in 2007-2008. Within that Portuguese season, he would go on to he would start 13 of the 26 matchups he played in a season where Benfica would finish fourth in the entire league. In his debut season, he would add 4 goals, as this would be the season in which he turned 20. And at the conclusion of this year, going into his age 20 season, he would be named, of course, one of the starters for Benfica. He started just about the same amount of games, as he started 12 of the 24 games in a season where Benfica would finish as the third best team in Portugal. However, they would go on to win the Taça de la Liga crown. This would be the very first title that Angel Di Maria would win. And alongside being able to pick up a domestic title for the first time, this would be his first trophy. But within that span of time, within his second season at Benfica, he would qualify for the Argentinian national team. And quickly going into his third season and final season with Benfica, his age 21 season in 2009-2010, he would start all 26 of the matchups he played for a Benfica team that had finally won the Portuguese league. In 2010, they had done it for the first time since 2005, ending a 4-year drought. And looking at how he fared this season, he would finish with 5 goals and 11 assists, which would be a career high for him on both fronts. And also, he was able to add 4 goals and an assist, as Benfica would try to go all the way through Europa League. They would end up losing in the quarterfinal round. He would go on playing 14 games. They would make it pretty far. But once they made it to the quarterfinals, they lost to Liverpool, who ended up losing to Atletico Madrid, who ended up winning Europa League for that season. Not to mention, they also went on to win the League Cup for the second year in a row, so that was another trophy. And following this season, in which he's established himself as one of the better center attacking mids Portugal as a young 21-year-old. He would go on to compete with Argentina at the World Cup in 2010. And in 2010, Argentina would find themselves making it through group stage after they beat Nigeria, South Korea, and Greece. In the round of 16, they would beat Mexico 3-1 before losing to Germany 4-0 in the quarterfinals. So that would be the second time in a row that they would be eliminated in Germany, or eliminated by Germany, at least at that point. They were eliminated in 2006. But taking a look at how Angel Di Maria fared after his very first World Cup appearance, he would be signed and picked up by Real Madrid. Of course, one of the first big super club that he would be signed for. He was signed for about 25 million euro. But his very first season with Real Madrid would be his age 22 season in 2010-2011. He would start 29 of the 35 La Liga games in a season where Real Madrid would finish as runners-up in La Liga for the third year in a row. They would go on to win the Copa del Rey, actually. This year they beat Barcelona 1-0. This would be when Ronaldo would score the lone goal for them. And not to mention that in Champions League in 2010-2011, they would end up losing to Barcelona in the semifinals. And I believe that 2010-2011 was also the season in which they signed Cristiano Ronaldo as well, just to get a sense of when Angel Di Maria arrived in Real Madrid. But in that season, he would do his best, adding 6 goals and 10 assists. To a Real Madrid side that was really competing for that title, that was pretty close to the top. Not to mention that in that La Liga, or also in addition to all of this, Angel Di Maria was able to add 3 goals and 3 assists in 10 matches in his very first Champions League run for this Real Madrid team, as Real Madrid's journey at the end of 2010-2011 was, of course, met by their rivals. So following that very first season with Real Madrid, he would compete with Argentina in the 2011 Copa America. And this season, Argentina would end up making it all the way to the quarterfinals. And in the quarterfinals, they lost on penalties to Uruguay, just to get a sense of how that game ended. But following his very first exit from Copa America, after he had played for Argentina in the World Cup and Copa America in back-to-back summers, he would return for his second season with the Real Madrid Soccer Club in his age 23 season in 2011-2012. In that season, he would start 16 of the 23 La Liga games he played, in a season where Real Madrid would come back and actually win La Liga for the first time since 2008. This would be the first time and the only time that he would win La Liga with Real Madrid. This would be, of course, the season where they had really crossed that threshold, and also taking a look at how they fared in the Copa del Rey. In this season, they would end up losing in the quarterfinal round to Barcelona. Also taking a look at how they fared this season, they would lose in the semifinal round. In the semifinal round, they met their end against Bayern Munich, who ended up losing to Chelsea in the final. Even in that run itself, he was able to add 2 goals and an assist. And not to mention that within La Liga, he had 5 goals and 14 assists. His 14 assists were the second most that he would put together in a La Liga season. It will be the third straight domestic season in which he's had a double-digit amount of assists, which is a very tough feat to do consistently, especially in one of the world's top leagues, especially like this. Following this 2011-2012 season, Angel Di Maria would return for his third season with Real Madrid in his age 24 season in 2012-13. He would go on to start 22 of the 32 La Liga matchups in a season where Real Madrid would finish as the second best team in La Liga. They would also finish as runners-up in the Copa del Rey final. They met their end versus Atletico. They lost 2-1 in the final. This season, they would end up going to the semifinals of Champions League for what would be the third year in a row. This year, Real Madrid lost to Borussia Dortmund, who lost to Bayern Munich in the final. This year, they would end up winning the Supercopa de España for the first time since Di Maria was there, as Di Maria scored the second goal in their first matchup, as they ended up winning on away goals. And that would be how they would take home his very first Supercopa de España. This would be the only time that he would win the Supercopa de España within his time there. Also, in those matchups, he would go on to play 11 matchups, or he played 11 games, and he finished with 4 assists within that season. Even in the La Liga season, he finished with 7 goals and 9 assists. The first time since his second season in Benfica, he's had a single-digit amount of assists at the end of a year, but still 16 combined scoring plays would be incredibly big, incredibly vital. And this, of course, would transition into Angel Di Maria's 4th and final season with the Real Madrid Football Club. In his age 25 season in 2013-14, he would start 27 of the 34 La Liga matchups in a season where Real Madrid would finish 3rd. This would be the first time they finished not in the top 2 since 2004. However, they would go on to win the Copa del Rey, which is the Spanish Cup, for the second time in Di Maria's 4 years there. Real Madrid would win this matchup 2-1, as Di Maria scored the first of the 2 goals in the 11th minute. And also, this would be the lone time in his Real Madrid stint in which they would win Champions League. They would win the 2013-14 title, as they would beat Atletico Madrid 4-1 in the final matchup. And following this win, of course, Real Madrid would begin to go on their Galactico streak, but after his 4th season in Real Madrid's first of a stretch in which they would win 4 out of 5, Angel Di Maria would be picked up by the Manchester United Football Club in England. And he would go on to play only 1 season with Manchester United. But before he played for Manchester United, he would go on to make his 2nd World Cup appearance with Argentina in 2014. This is when the World Cup was, of course, which is when it was taking place in Brazil. They would end up making it through group stage after beating Bosnia and Herzegovina, Iran, and Nigeria, swept all the way through that. In the round of 16, Angel Di Maria would score Argentina's only goal in extra time to help them beat Switzerland. In the quarterfinals, Argentina would end up beating Belgium 1-0. And then in the semifinals, they would end up beating the Netherlands on penalty kicks. They would make it all the way to the final versus Germany, and then Germany would end up beating Argentina 1-0 off of Mario Götze's extra time goal. But that would be the closest that Di Maria would really make it to the final, as he was a very big part of the reason that Argentina would make it that far in the World Cup as is. In the 5 games he played, he did add a goal, and not to mention that he was still coming off of his Real Madrid Champions League run. But of course, after the World Cup, he would play his lone season in the Premier League, and in his age 26 season in 2014-15, he would start 20 of the 27 matchups he played for a Manchester United team that would finish 4th in the Premier League after finishing 7th the year before. They wouldn't win any titles this year, as Wayne Rooney would be their leading scorer. Within the Premier League, he finished with 3 goals and he had 10 assists. This would be the 5th time in a 6-year stretch in which he's finished with double-digit assists. In the 1 year he didn't, he finished with 9. In addition to that Premier League season, he was able to add a goal and an assist in an FA Cup and a Football Association Cup run, where, of course, they would finish in the round, or in the 6th round. They wouldn't really make it very far. Following Di Maria's loan season with Manchester United, he would play for a Argentina team that would finish as runners-up in the 2015 Copa America. They would make it all the way to the final, where they would end up losing on penalty kicks to Chile, but they would make it incredibly far, as they would end up winning their first matchup in this tournament. They beat Colombia on penalty kicks. Once they made it into the semifinals, they would beat Paraguay 6-1, as Di Maria would score 2 of the team's 6. And then in the final, they did lose 4-1 on penalties, just to give a sense of how that Copa ended. They did play Copa the next year as well. But following Angel Di Maria's loan season in England, he would join the Paris Saint-Germain Football Club. And in his first of what is now 7 seasons with PSG, in his age 27 season in 2015-16, Di Maria would start 26 of the 29 La Liga matchups in a season, Ligue 1 matchups in a season where PSG would win Ligue 1 for the 4th year in a row. This is a 4-year stretch from 2013 on. This was when Edison Cavani would lead the team, or this is when Zlatan Ibrahimovic had led the team in scoring for the 3rd time. This is when Zlatan scored his 50. In addition to their Ligue 1 title, they were able to win every title in France for the 2nd year in a row, the first time since Di Maria had been there. In the Coupe de France, they would end up going all the way to the final where they would beat Marseille 4-2. In the Coupe de la Ligue, which is the other French title game, they would end up beating Lille 2-1 to take that title. And then in the Trophée de Champion, which is the French Super Cup, France would end up beating Lyonnais in order to take home that title. So they were able to win all 5 of those trophies. In the Ligue 1 season, in the first season in which he would win the title with a French team, he would go on to finish with 10 goals, which is the first time he would score a double-digit amount of goals in a domestic season. He would finish with 18 assists, which is his career high even to this date. He has not had more than 18 assists in a season. His 25 combined scoring plays in his first season in Paris is the most that he's ever put together just within just a Ligue 1 season. And this with a Ligue 1 title, this would be the 3rd country in which he's won a league title with. He won one in Portugal, he won one with Real Madrid in Spain, and this being France, this would be the 3rd country in which he had done so in. In addition to their Ligue 1 matchups, he was able to add a couple of goals in the Coupe de France run. He was able to add 10, he played 10 matches and he was able to add 3 goals and 2 assists in a Champions League run that would see PSG get knocked out of the quarterfinal round. The team that would knock PSG out would be Manchester City. Manchester City would get knocked out by Real Madrid in the semifinal, and Real Madrid would end up winning the Champions League that year, just to get a sense of where PSG was. But following his very first season with PSG, he would compete with Argentina in the Copa America for the 2nd year in a row, and in 2016 they would finish as the runners-up in the entire tournament. Once they got to the end, they would end up losing to Chile on penalty kicks. In their quarterfinal matchup, they would beat Venezuela 4-1 as Higuain had 2 goals. In the semifinals, they would beat the United States 4-0. And not to mention, because it was the Centenario, so they were able to let the United States play. But once they made it to the final, they lost 4-2 on penalty kicks, as Di Maria didn't take a penalty kick within this matchup, as Argentina was runners-up for the 2nd Copa America in a row, and for the 4th in a stretch of 5, to give you a hint of how close they had been getting. But following his very first season at PSG, he would return for his 2nd season, his age 28 season in 2016-17. In that season, he would start 24 of the 29 matchups in a season where PSG would finish as the runners-up in France. First time they hadn't won the title since 2012, ending their 4-year streak. However, they would go on to win the Coupe de France for the 3rd year in a row. This year, they would end up beating Angers 1-0. They would end up winning the Coupe de la Ligue, which is France's other domestic cup, the League Cup. And in that matchup, he would score the 2nd of their 4 goals in a 4-1 win versus Monaco. Di Maria would end up breaking the 1-1 tie in the first half. And then once they would make it to the Trophée de Champion, the French Super Cup, they would end up beating Lyonnais 4-1 for their 3rd trophy of the year. This would be their 4th straight French Super Cup. This year, PSG would end up going to Champions League, and they would end up getting knocked out in the round of 16 by Barcelona. Barcelona would get knocked out by Juventus in the quarterfinals, and Juventus would get knocked out by Real Madrid in the final, to get a sense of how that Champions League run was. But in that Champions League run, he was able to finish with 4 goals and and an assist. And in his very second Ligue 1 season, he was able to add 6 goals and 7 assists to help PSG finish with the second best record in France, not to mention all the other trophies he was able to help them pick up along the way. Transitioning into Di Maria's third season with the club and his age 29 season in 2017-18, he would go on to start 26 of the 30 Ligue 1 matchups in a season where PSG would win Ligue 1 for, at this moment, would be the 5th time in a 6-year stretch after they finished as runners-up the year before. In what would be his third Ligue 1 season, Angel Di Maria would finish with 11 goals, which would be a career high for him at that point. And the second time in his career, he finished with a double-digit amount of goals, both those seasons in Ligue 1. He would finish with 7 assists as well. He would have just as many as he had the year before. In addition to how he fared this season, PSG would go on to win all 4 of the titles that they could in France, just like they did in 2016. They would win the 2017-2018 Coupe de France, as this would end up with them beating Herbier 2-0 in the final. In the Coupe de la Ligue, in the French League Cup, they would end up beating Monaco 3-0, as Di Maria scored the second of their 3 goals. The other 2 goals were scored by Edison Cavani. And then in the French Super Cup, they were able to beat Monaco 2-1, so that would be their 4th trophy. This would be the second year in a row in which they would get eliminated from the round of 16. This year, they would end up getting knocked out by Real Madrid 3-1, so that would be where they got knocked out, but Real Madrid would go on to win the final, but that was how good Real Madrid was that year. And that would be his former team. In 2017-18, I believe, was the last year to date in which Real Madrid had won Champions League. And after that year, Ronaldo had left. And remember, he and Angel Di Maria came to Real Madrid at the same time. So, following his third season with Paris, he would go on to compete with Argentina at the last World Cup that he's competed in, which was 2018, because 2022 still has yet to happen. In 2018, Argentina would just scrape through the group stage after drawing with Iceland, losing to Croatia, and beating Nigeria. In the round of 16, they ended up losing 4-3 to France. Angel Di Maria scored Argentina's first of 3 goals, as this would be their early exit. That's the last time they've been playing. And France would go on to win the World Cup, by the way. This would be the second straight time they had lost to the World Cup champs, just to get a sense of the luck that they had. And following that 2018 season, he would go on to return to his 4th season, or he would return to PSG for what would be his 4th season. His age 30 season in 2018-19, he would go on to start 28 of the 30 Ligue 1 matchups in a season where PSG would win Ligue 1 for the 2nd year in a row and for the 6th time in a 7-year span. In this 4th Ligue 1 season, he would finish with 12 goals and 11 assists. This would be the second time in his 15-year pro career in which he would finish with a double-digit amount of goals and assists. He has not done it since 2019. In addition to his 12 goals and 11 assists and his 3 trophies in his 3 Ligue 1 titles in his 4 years in Ligue 1, he would also add 3 Coupe de France goals. He added 2 Super Cup goals as well, as PSG would finish as runners-up in the Coupe de France. They ended up losing in the final to Rennes on penalty kicks. However, in the quarterfinal of the Coupe de la Ligue, they would end up losing to Guingamp, but they were able to win the French Super Cup as he scored 2 goals. He scored in the 32nd minute and he scored in the 92nd minute as they were able to beat a very talented Monaco team. In the Champions League this year, they would end up getting knocked out in the round of 16 for the 3rd year in a row. The team that knocked them out in 2018-19 would end up being Manchester United. Manchester United would get eliminated by Barcelona, and Barcelona would get knocked out by the eventual champions Liverpool in the semifinals. Following that 2018-19 stretch in his 4th season, Angel Di Maria would compete with Argentina at the 2019 Copa America. They would finish as the 3rd place team as they would effectively get eliminated by Brazil in the semifinals. In the quarterfinals, they beat Venezuela 2-0. In the semifinals, Argentina would lose to Brazil 2-0. And then in the third place playoff game, they would end up beating Chile 2-1 in order to earn their medal. But of course, following that 2019 Copa America exit, Angel Di Maria would compete with PSG in his fifth season in Ligue 1, in his age 31 season with the team in 2019 and 20, a season that was impacted and even delayed, had its end delayed by COVID. He would start 23 of the 26 Ligue 1 matchups in a season in which PSG would win Ligue 1 for the third year in a row. This would be the sixth time in a 7-year stretch in which they had won, and at least in Di Maria's case, this would be the third time the fourth time in a 5-year stretch that he had won it. In that Ligue 1 season, he finished with 8 goals and 14 assists. His 14 assists are the second most he's ever recorded in a Ligue 1 season, and it is the third most he's ever put up in a domestic season, as he's put up more in his last season in Real Madrid as well. He was also able to score his lone penalty kick in Ligue 1 in his career. Not to mention that in that season, PSG would virtually win every trophy. In that 19-20 season in the Coupe de la Ligue, he would add a goal and 2 assists. PSG would go all the way to the final of Coupe de la Ligue, and they would win the final against Olympique Lyonnais. They would end up winning the Coupe de France. And in that final, they would end up beating Saint-Étienne, as Neymar scored the lone goal for that. In the French Super Cup in 2019, they would end up beating Rennes 2-1, as Di Maria's 73rd minute goal would be the tiebreaker and be what would give PSG their title in the first place in 2019-2020. And in addition to that, he was able to play 9 matchups where he had 3 goals and 6 assists in a Champions League run that would see Paris Saint-Germain make it incredibly far. They would go all the way to the finals where they would lose to Bayern Munich. And because of COVID, they knocked out the aggregates in the other rounds, and they were still able to make it through. They ended up losing 1-0 off of Kingsley Coman's header, as that would be when Bayern Munich had won the German treble. But PSG was virtually that win away from winning every single possible trophy they could have won that year as well. And following that 2019-20 season, he, of course, would return to PSG for his age 32 season. And in his age 32 season, which was his 6th season with the club, his last full season that he played in 2020-21, he would start 23 of the 27 Ligue 1 games he played in a season where PSG would finish as runners-up in Ligue 1 for the second time since 2017. This would be the second time since Angel Di Maria had made it there that they hadn't won league. But within Ligue 1, he finished with 5 goals and 9 assists. Not to mention that outside of that, he was able to help Paris win the Coupe de France. They made it all the way to the final, and in the final, they were able to win and beat Monaco 2-0, as Icardi and Mbappe scored those goals. In the Super Cup that year, they were able to beat Marseille 2-1, as Icardi and Neymar would be the players that scored. And additionally, looking at how Paris Saint-Germain fared in the Champions League for 2020-2021, they would end up losing in the Champions League semifinals, as the team that ended up beating them was Manchester City, as Manchester City ended up losing in the final to Chelsea. Following his last full season that he played with PSG, he would compete with Argentina at the Copa America in 2021. And for the first time since 1993, in 28 years, Argentina had won Copa America. In the quarterfinals, they would end up beating Ecuador 3-0. In the semifinals, they would end up drawing with Colombia 1-1, but then they would end up advancing past on penalties. And once they made it to the final, it would be Angel Di Maria's goal past Brazil in the 22nd minute that would give Argentina its win. So Angel Di Maria, of course, has that highlight to, of course, was maybe the best play that he was able to record while playing with Argentina. And not to mention that Lionel Messi was able to win his 7th Ballon d'Or this year before going off to PSG, before joining Angel Di Maria after being named the most outstanding player in Copa America. And Angel Di Maria's goal would be the cherry on top, exactly what Argentina needed. And that was the last time they had competed in the Copas. So after being the South American champs, he has returned for what is now his age 33 at PSG. And so far, he started 14 of the 17 matchups he's played in a season where PSG is comfortably sitting at the very top of Ligue 1. And how comfortably, you ask? They're sitting 13 points ahead of second place Marseille, to get a better sense of how high they're really sitting on top. As they have 59 points in the table. They've only lost 1 of their 24 games this season. Not to mention that they're still playing in their other leagues. Angel Di Maria has 3 goals and 3 assists in Ligue 1 so far this year. And PSG is still very much alive in Champions League, as their first matchup is going to be tomorrow against Real Madrid, against Di Maria's old club, as at this very moment, Angel Di Maria is now officially 34. And I can't wait to see how he's continuing to play. And hopefully I'll have a lot more to say about him next year when he comes back around. But he's definitely a player whose presence has been the reason why a lot of his teams have won, especially because of how smart and how skilled he is at the attacking position. Right now, once again, I want to thank the FIFA, Wikipedia's, the Transfer Marks, the Footy Stats, Football Reference websites for giving me all the facts and figures that I needed, and of course the FIFA website's necessary. And I want to conclude this episode by, of course, recommending watching Angel Di Maria. He wears 11 for Argentina, and he wears 11 for Paris Saint-Germain. So I would definitely watch him if you get the chance, and hopefully there's a lot more about him, and hopefully I'll have a lot more to say about him this time next year. I can't wait to see what he does with PSG and with Argentina, because between now and next year, there should be the World Cup that's taking place, and Argentina is a team that's that very well could compete. So he very well could win, but I can't wait to see what he does. With that said, thanks once again. I hope all is well, and I'll catch you with another episode tomorrow on Tuesday, February 15th, once all of today's exhibitions and matches are done. Thanks for listening. I hope all is well, and I'll catch you with another episode tomorrow. Peace out.